So Kev,
Yeah.
this is my I'm not going to be in town for next week's game. They're not going to be in town for next week's game. This is the last game that I get to watch up until after the bye week in the States. Sadly, I won't be in England with them because I will be in Italy for 2 weeks after this.
Hang on. You've thrown a lot of. I mean, I know most of this, but you did just kind of throw a lot at me here.
Yeah. We didn't talk about any of this
You're
before.
not. You're not going to watch the game.
No, I didn't get to watch last week's game very closely. So I will be taking a back seat on a lot of our review section of this review preview show. But no, I will be watching the game. Oh hell no, I'm gonna be watching the games. Absolutely. I'm just gonna be in Italy for 2 weeks for my honeymoon. And we're gonna have to figure out how we want to record the episodes that need to go up while I'm in Italy. Thankfully, there's a bye week for one of them. So one of the weeks. We'll figure that out.
Man, and I can't, not to get too much into the weeds, but I don't have the tools at my disposal basically to do any of it, like for me to drive. Like you always have to be driving the technical aspect.
So all the OBS setup is on my computer, but it's not just that. I don't know if your laptop can actually handle the recording and the encoding.
Because genuinely, I think it would be funny for me just to do it alone, like during the bye week, because you're not going to want to do the bye week.
Honestly, if you want to do it alone and just record it and record yourself talking, you feel free to. I'll send you the if you know how to do some video editing, I'll just send you the template. Just throw your video in the middle of it, with really quickly with some easy video editing software. Honestly, it wouldn't be that hard for you if you want to do it like that. We'll talk about it offline. Anyway, we had a game which I just admitted. Sorry, go on.
Really funny.
I'd love that actually. I would absolutely listen to it. We did just have a game we should talk about. And it's one that I did not get to watch closely because I was at a bachelor party throwing axes. However, during said axe throwing, so I get in there and obviously like I've got my Roma jersey on. And the host of axe throwing looks at me and she's like, "Your responsibility is to put the Bears game on so that we can at least hear it and listen to it." I'm like, "I'm already watching it. I have my phone in my hand." I'm like, "No, it's right here." I started raising the volume. I'm like, "Don't worry about it." Halfway through the instructions, I just raised my hand for a touchdown. It was what was it? Whose touchdown was that? DJ's. Yeah, it was DJ Moore's touchdown. And she looks at me like I'm not saying anything. I just have my hands up. She's like, "Touchdown." I'm like, "Yep." She's like, "Hell yeah, let's go." It was awesome.
And she was an axe throwing employee.
Yes. She's a badass. But
that's cool. There was early in the game, you said something to me that I didn't feel like hearing. I believe I said, "Shut up and throw your axes."
Oh, I just said this team really sucks.
It's training right now. You said it's like training, or it's training, telling us how to do it or whatever. And I said, well, that seems important. So pay attention to that.
So
I don't want you killing me with an axe.
I've X-run before, so thankfully I didn't need the training as bad as you thought I was going to.
No. What was most important is that you stopped talking to me in that moment.
Yeah,
I had said. I don't want to hear
the thing that I had said was this team sucks. This was like in the middle of the first half, and I'm like half paying attention. So like, and obviously I'm getting to the point where the emotions are starting to click in a little bit. I want to be more of a fan than robot. You know me. I typically watch the games very robotically. I think over the past couple of years. This year I told myself I'm going to allow myself to be more of a fan. And it was a bad decision because I am getting slightly impatient with certain things. But I did not get to catch a lot of the second half of the game because I actually had to, which was the good half, because I had to axe throw and actually be a part of the bachelor party. So, Kev, I'm gonna lean on you. Talk to me. Tell me what the game was like. Explain to me what you saw. Anything that we already have talked about before. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff that like is redundant to what we've already seen and reviewed with this team. So like we don't really have to go deep into it.
I'm trying to think about anything. I probably should have thought about this a little more. I thought more about the upcoming game. So the Bears won 24-18. I'll say in terms of things that we got wrong when we previewed it, at least I did assume that the reports that Roshan was going to be the lead back.
Get more touches, not the lead back.
I assumed so. I thought he was going to be the lead back. I thought, why would the report exist? Because he already got touches at the previous game.
Mm-hmm.
But it was Swift, and I got to say, Swift looked good. I can't I still think Swift is a bad running back, but like that touchdown run was impressive. It was one cut and then a little hurdle over a guy and straight
It
home.
was.
Like great. That was awesome. Made a couple. I mean,
I will say
I'll get into the part.
I was at the Guinness, the new Guinness Brewery downtown, and I did get to see that part because by the time we were done X-rowing and I saw that run, I was like, "Woo-hoo." That's sweet. Sorry.
So your review of the game is mostly going to be like the different Chicago landmarks that you.
Yeah, that I visited during the time. Do we want to
Um,
talk about the Cubs game that I went to the day before too? Should I just go into everything?
that was Hendricks. That was the Hendricks game, right?
Hendricks, yep, Hendricks' last game. I didn't realize it was his last
Probably.
game until somebody told
Probably.
me before it. It was.
Probably.
Well, probably. Yeah, sorry, he's got 2.
Don't
We'll
tell
see
me
what
it was.
happens. We'll see what happens in free agency. That's a good point. He's just a free agent. We don't know yet. Bittersweet at that time, but we'll continue. This is a Bears podcast with 2 Cubs fans running it.
Yeah. So Swift and what I was gonna say is I don't really like it, but he was also by far the main receiver. Just a good overall day to have DeAndre Swift in fantasy.
You like the fact that
And
he did well. You're saying you don't like the fact that he was getting
don't
most of the
like that he
targets.
was targeted so often.
Yep.
Um,
Just want to be clear there.
trying to think what else we got. I mean, the defense. I mean, I don't. I think we had. I think we were right about the defense. Kyron Williams had up the running game. I think the most explosive running play came out of Ronnie Rivers. Honestly, there weren't many explosive runs out of the Rams.
Their offensive line is banged up a good bit.
I would say
So
they were rather efficient.
Mhm.
But not in a way that I felt like hurt us. I thought the defense probably bit a little too much on play action, especially up 9. You really don't need to be biting so much on play
yeah.
action. So I'll
Was there
continue to
also a
be.
component of Stafford moving the defense a little bit too? Would you say,
Oh, for
or
sure.
was
I
it
mean,
mostly play
Stafford
action?
Stafford is wonderful. I mean
Yeah.
that's really the headline is that Stafford was incredible. Again, I stand by the fact that I think he has the worst weapons in the NFL without
Yep.
Puka and Cup.
Yep. I didn't think
There
this would
wasn't a
be an
single
easy
guy
game
there that
though
was scary.
for all the reasons we talked about though. McVay and Stafford alone are going to generate enough offense to scare you a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I'll go back and say run game wise, the Rams run defense does just suck. We speculated that maybe it was the opponents. No, that run defense is trash. What else? What else? I did
We
hit
talked
both
about their
my.
defensive line being better at pressures than what they probably have been, and I think that came out to be true. Jared Verse absolutely made Braxton Jones, who is dealing with an injured knee, so I don't know how much of it is also that he's already going to be a little bit behind the 8 ball with bull rush pressures. I don't know how much of the injury also factored into it. He ate his lunch. Jared Verse absolutely made him look as a Braxton Jones defender. I could say he got his ass handed to him that entire game.
So the morning of, I put in 3 bets for over 0.25 sacks. Javon Dexter, Montez Sweat, and Jared Verse. Hit my Sweat and Dexter, and if I recall correctly, I think those are the only 2 sacks the Bears had. So
Mhm.
I got lucky, kind of, but great. Jared Verse had like 3.5 sacks, and none of them counted on paper. One of them, Caleb wriggled away. One of them, I think he should have gotten credit for a half sack. He just didn't get it. And then 2 were called back because of
Actual penalties, though.
defensive
Yeah.
holding. Yeah, Verse is awesome. In the draft, we had 3 guys, and I think we generally teared them together. Dallas, Verse, and Latu was. I think we were both kind of firmly Latu third, but he was at least in the conversation. No,
Yeah,
Verse is
Verse was
blowing them
my
the hell
favorite.
away. Verse is
Yeah,
so good.
Verse was my favorite. I was not a big Dallas Turner fan, as you know. I think I had Latu second, actually.
Okay, well,
I think we
you
flipped it.
did absolutely say the opposite of that last week on
Did
a
I?
recorded episode.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't recall that being the case.
Did I have Dallas Turner in 1, really? I always liked Verse a
You
ton. I
said that you
also
had
really
Turner
like
and
Chop
Verse.
Robinson. Did I? Oh,
Oh,
well.
I'm the one who's claiming Chop Robinson. I don't think he's doing shit.
Oh, I have no idea how he's doing right now. I know that I had Chop Robinson probably because of you pointing him out. Chop Robinson, especially actually no, because he was pretty high going into the season too, as a first rounder, and I have no idea how he's doing. I don't think I was that big on Dallas Turner, but maybe I did say that last week. That would be a lie, because if you remember correctly, I tried to compare him with, why am I blanking on his name? The guy who's on the Texans from Bama the year before, saying that he's not even. I don't think he's close to, and I'm sure he's doing
Anderson.
well. Yeah, Anderson. I'm sure he's doing well because Flores is just an absolute beast at scheming up pressures.
I don't actually think he's doing much.
Really? Well, if he's on that defense and he's not doing much, that's a sign. But
I don't think he's getting a ton of snaps.
I really liked Verse, and I thought Latu was a how do I put this? I always felt that Latu was going to be exactly what you expected, and I think that's what a lot of people thought. I probably took that from other
Yeah.
people, not even my own. My own.
Anyway,
But
point being, Verse is an absolute monster.
yeah,
I mean the entire.
how's Kobe Turner? Someone we
So
also both liked.
that's the thing I was going to say is I feel like of the four defensive, starting defensive linemen, Turner is kind of who I noticed the least. Like Fisk made a play.
Just me, yep.
I don't know if Turner was bad. I don't care. I do know they couldn't defend the run for shit, and the pressure certainly mostly came from
Yep.
Verse. So
I think their issue specifically is they lack linebackers, and their secondary's okay. It's not great. So if you've got they're able to generate pressure. If they had at least decent linebacking core, it probably would have been a different story. I don't know if you agree with that. But that's why I was sitting there. I'm like, we both were sitting there discussing as we were talking about the defensive line. We're like, this defensive line should be a lot better. Why is this defense not doing that well? I'm wondering how much of that is because their back seven is just not. This goes back to like building front to back versus back to front.
I wasn't wondering. That is absolutely my
Yeah.
my thought. And the main headline of the game will address that a little bit. But I will say, I would say offensively, or the Rams offensively versus the Bears defense, kind of predictable. And I would say that the Bears held up as well as we could possibly expected, or at least basically how we predicted. Like
Yep.
I said, my prediction for the game, my pessimistic one was Rams 20, Bears 17. Well, if they get the 2-point conversion, I was exactly right. I mean, I was wrong because they didn't get the 2-point conversion, but I was very close. That was the number to beat. Thankfully, they beat it. But yeah, it was that, and it was all just Stafford being great, and it was McVay dialing up a few nice shot plays where Bears defenders were put into conflict. But luckily, the Bears made some plays of their own, got a little pressure, and yeah, they were good. And again, I think Kyron Williams had a good stat line, but I would just call it efficient, not particularly explosive. Nothing that I'm afraid of, and a few stuffs that put the Rams on the 8 ball a little bit.
Do you remember what my
Again,
prediction was?
I
know I had the Bears winning
I
because I
think
didn't want to.
you probably had the Rams in the 17 to 20 ballpark,
Yeah.
and you had the Bears with a little more. You were probably closer than I
think
was, but
yeah.
I think we both had the right idea of what the Rams offense was going to be able to do given their lack of weapons. If they had the
Yeah.
weapons, the Bears would have lost.
I also think we had the right idea on what the defense was going to do. I just don't think we had the right idea on how the offense would respond to what the defense was going to do. Right? Like weren't sure about the rushing attack. Specifically, I think we weren't sure about the rushing attack because we didn't know if we could run the ball after the Colts stopped us from running the ball after when they looked like they couldn't stop shit.
Yeah. So I'll say this. Props to the Bears offensive line for whatever they did to make the running game happen. I mean, that hasn't been the issue, but it has been the main issue at least, and they moved the ball. Good on the offensive line there. Pass blocking wise, I didn't see a ton of crazy, games going on for the Rams defensive line, partially because they probably became aware very quickly that Verse was just going to walk Braxton Jones back every time, and it wasn't really necessary.
I did see like a game with First going to the middle, I think on 1 or 2 snaps.
But besides Braxton,
to watch it, but that's it.
Besides Braxton, and you can make excuses for Braxton that could be valid. I know he's dealing with an injury.
It's a red flag. Let me just throw that. It's a red flag no matter what, even with the injury or not. It's something to monitor. But continue.
It's also just, the main issue with him, and it's something that we were hoping would be solved by year 3 is, Jared Verse just pushed him back every time. Braxton didn't have the anchor for it. So you kind of would have hoped that, your point, and I didn't disagree with it, was that the strength and conditioning program, year 3, Braxton would be able to develop a better anchor than he has. And if this game is any indication, no, he hasn't. He's still going to struggle a lot with a great ball rusher like Jared Verse.
He has looked very good in the first the other games. So I am willing to give him a little bit of an excuse, saying that the injury might have played a factor, but also I don't know if he's gone up against. Well, okay, so against the Texans, he's definitely gone up against somebody like.
I mean, Will Anderson is a great
Yeah.
speed to power guy, which I would say is in the same category. You need an anchor
Yep.
for that, and I wouldn't
Yep.
say the Braxton.
In fact, I would say speed to power is probably more lethal than just a bull rush. Specifically
Sure.
because you're using speed to also enhance the power that you're pushing into the chest if you can get your hands on there.
I would say they're very, very close cousins, though.
Yes.
Usually it starts with acceleration.
Yep. I'm hopeful, but we'll see. I don't want to go in on him like I feel like I've heard some people already do on the little bit that I've listened to about this game. He does definitely deserve a lot of
shit happens. It's worth
people have
bringing
bad
up.
games
It's
too.
worth bringing up. It should happen.
Yep. But it is also it's worth watching, because if he doesn't make that year 3 jump, I mean, we're talking about a point where he's going to be looking for an extension eventually. And if he doesn't make that jump in being able to handle a bull rush, and you've got that weakness, there's going to be a lot of elite edge rushers that can expose that. So, moving forward,
Anyway, I think we did a good job of saying what the defense was going to do. I think we were a little off. I think the Bears' running game was better than we could have possibly hoped for, even with the transition from Swift to Roshan. But
I want to emphasize
headline,
something too on the running game. We got to give DeAndre Swift his flowers before we just move past it. We've been so harsh on
flowers. I said I think he's bad, but he was legitimately good.
But like very out loud, he deserves. Like, I want to just say it specifically. He deserves his flowers for the game that he had. That was just from the bit that I watched, and then also going back, I did try to rewatch the condensed version. I haven't obviously watched the all 22. He had a very good game. That was not a game that I expected him to have in his pocket. You look like you want to disagree.
I just want to disagree that we have to give him his flowers. He's not listening, and he still sucks. I hope he gets benched.
Oh, look, here's my thing.
Thank you to him for the good game. I hope he gets benched. He's a bad running back.
What I specifically want to say, though, is if he continues to play, like, make me wrong. Continue to play like that. Do you know what I mean?
He's not going to, though. So,
but I want him to. So I'm just gonna say that, like, it's in no way do we want him to fail. I think we want him to be a stud, because then our Bears win, right? Like, let's be clear about that. We want him to be a stud. So, like,
nobody doesn't know this, though.
I know, I hear you, but I don't want it to say, you'd be shocked, man. You'd be shocked at the kind of people who would look at you and be like, oh, you just want to be right? Because that's what I think most people on the internet want to do. Just be right. No, I feel like we are right, but if he proves us wrong, I'd be way happier.
I'd like to be right about the good things I predict, not the bad things.
Yes.
I was wrong that the Bears are going to lose, and that's great. And Swift is, I would say, the thing that made me wrong.
Yep.
Swift did enough offensively to make the Bears offense do enough. I thought 20 was the thing to beat. They beat 20.
Now,
DeAndre Swift is the main part.
The
headline is Caleb. I want to talk about Caleb. We don't talk about Caleb a ton for a Bears podcast. And I want to be careful and say that I'm not making any grand proclamations, nothing like this. I don't like the way that he played. Everyone says that this was the best game that he played this season. Everybody says that Jay Cutler's best season. Everybody says that I'm generalizing. PFF has it as highest graded game. I put on a random video of Tampa Bay Trey Sycamore. I know this is just a guy, but it's something that showed up in my feed of him kind of giving Caleb glowing reviews on what he did.
Right,
Mark Sanchez on the broadcast was talking about what a huge improvement Caleb had shown from week 1 to week 4.
Really quickly, though, before we move on, Tampa Bay Trey, Trevor Sycamore. I know there are a lot of people that like him a lot.
We've talked about it. We don't have to double back for it.
We got to talk.
I'm
not a big fan. Never have been.
If you want to digress, let's talk about the text that you sent me that I responded to that then required some tedious back and forth to determine if my response to it was correct about recording in an hour or less. So I
We
think that's
can.
worth getting into.
We don't need to go into like a 20-minute thing about Trevor Sycamore. I just want to say, not a big fan.
I want to go into a 20-minute thing about this text.
Shoot, let's do it. Not everything. We don't need to go on a tangent on everything I bring up, but let's go back to Caleb and that text message. Actually, the other text message that we had that you sent me that I at first misunderstood.
Yes. So I want to set this up. Let me tee it up. People thought that a lot of people think that this was the best game that he played. And to repeat the last thing that I said, because I don't think you caught it. And I know it doesn't matter, but Mark Sanchez was giving him lots of flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was watching the game, I was thinking, well, I don't want Mark Sanchez to think that Caleb Williams is playing the game correctly, because I don't want him to play anything like Mark Sanchez or what Mark Sanchez thinks was the correct thing to do. And one other kind of rambly point I'll have is that when Jay Cutler was offensive coordinated by Adam Gase, people, I think the big opinion was, oh, Cutler's finally had his best season. He just needed Gase to rein him in. Why are we trying to rein in Jay Cutler? And that gets to my point. Why does it seem like we are trying so very hard to rein in Caleb Williams?
So, first and foremost, on the Gase point, no, his best season was with Martz, the second season with Martz. And that was not rating him in. That's I wish we had Bruce Arians instead of what's it called? When we hired, what's his name? Alouettes. Why am I remembering his Canadian team name? Thank you. I remember his Canadian team name before I could remember Tressman. Because no risk it, no biscuit, which is very much like Martz's offense. Not very much like Martz. I don't actually know. Would have been better for Cutler style, and I would have loved that. They would have been fantastic together. Not even knowing, even back then, not even knowing BA was going to be who he is. That offense just matched so well.
You would never guess what Alouette means.
I'm not going to try. What is it?
Lark, like the bird. A lark.
I don't even know what a lark looks like.
I don't know.
Anyway, I
this bird.
Understand what you're saying. I slightly disagree. I think there are a couple, and actually your point is echoed by JTO. So I lied when I say I didn't watch all 22, because when I say that, what I mean is I specifically didn't, but I did watch, obviously, all the people who say you have so many quarterback people that you listen to. It is JTO, obviously. I watch Kurt Warner's breakdowns, and then I watch Tim Jenkins. That's it. It's usually pretty quick, except for JTO's. JTO's is, thankfully, this week's was only 40 minutes. Last week's was like 2 hours. When he does the Patreon only, it's usually incredibly long. JTO does echo your sentiment that, like, hey, he missed a wide open, like, roam on a post.
I don't want to get to the misses yet. I want to get to how the Bears.
I hear you, but this goes into it, right?
How the Bears are.
It's a dump off on that play, which is what you're trying to say. Is like, why is he dumping the ball off and not taking shots, right? Why is he playing from the pocket so much and not playing more creatively like we know he can, right? You feel as though they're reining him in and telling him to just play safe football, like Mark Sanchez was talking about, taking the dump off when it's there, but take what the defense gives you. The saying that is, you can't go broke taking a profit, which I disagree with. In the sense that if you don't take the big profit, like I could get $5, right, for working an hour, or I could get $100 for working an hour, right? And if I only work 3 hours getting $100, I got $300. How many hours of work do I have to take to match that with $5 right?
Now you can go drive Uber for another 8 hours if you want, make even more money.
There we go.
I lost track of the thing, but opportunity cost is here.
Yes, and that goes back to, hey, it's really hard to drive down the field and score when you're not getting chunk plays to score, right? Because each time you need to convert a first down, there's a probability chance of you actually converting those downs based off of how we look back historical data wise, right? Now if you have to convert first down to go down the field and then score versus big ass play, one first down and score, it's significantly harder. You want to get those explosives when they're there. And then on top of that, we talk about his playmaker ability, which we haven't seen much. Here's why I disagree. I think
I
that
haven't
this was
really
a
made the
game
full
plan.
point.
Okay, fine. Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, you kind of said a lot of my points that I was going to make for him. There's it is the checkdowns. It is the design plays to get the ball out of his hand quickly. It is the bizarre, and I still wonder if maybe he was hurt, standing flat-footed in the pocket, almost like a coaching point. Hey, on this play, hit your landmark and do not move. And Caleb's like, all right, I'm coachable, famously. Um, and it makes no sense to tell Caleb to stand in one spot. It feels like he's getting a lot of voices, and it's reminding me of like when last year when Justin Fields said,
No
basically,
fumbles.
I'm
No.
going. No. Even before that, when Fields was like some presser, and he essentially said like,
Oh,
I'm just
I
going to kind
got
of
you.
ignore Getsy and just do me, and I don't want to get to that because that's
He
what I feel like.
said, he
That's what I'm
specifically
afraid is
said,
it could happen.
yeah, he specifically called out the coaching for not allowing him to play. Now, I didn't take
Yeah,
it like that. I took that as I'm being told to read too much and I'm unable, like he's unable to process because he looked like he was short circuiting. I don't agree with it being the same thing here. For me,
I don't think
Fields
Caleb's
was
short
saying,
circuiting, but you're putting you're putting limitations that don't need to be there.
see,
Why would
that's
you
where
put it?
but this is where I disagree with you on that one. I think it's more like not Getsy, Eberflus saying no fumbles, no turnovers. What was it? It was the three things that he had to check: no turnovers, no sacks, and then something
No
else. I can't
fumbles,
remember.
no fumbles, no
Yeah,
interceptions, no sacks.
no sacks. I think it's more like if you're saying that it's like this, then it might be more like that, and which I don't know if I agree with. The thing that he was saying with Getsy, I always took as I'm being coached too much in the sense that I'm being told like what to look at and everything like that. And because if you looked at him on the play, he turns into where Caleb's still processing, right? The field around him. Fields became shut like Fields would shut down, it looked like he was overloaded. It was paralysis by analysis, if that makes sense. That's how I took the Getsy. It was paralysis by analysis. He couldn't play his game because he was thinking way too much.
It doesn't need to be a one-for-one comparison,
Yeah.
but I feel as though too many things are being instilled into Caleb, and it is papering too much over the things that make Caleb Caleb, is the point. The things that made Justin Fields, for better or worse, were being stifled. And
Mhm.
you said you were going to bring it up, and we don't have to get too much into it, but Fields is looking pretty good. He
Mhm.
he's it's
They're
just been
using
it's
him
been
the way that he
it's
should
been
be.
it's been the full Justin Fields experience,
Mhm.
but they're 3-1. He's doing pretty good.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, he's had like 2 fumbles, I think, every single game. He's just recovered them mostly. Or
sure,
Pickens recovered the one that almost lost him the game last week. And he still is pretty much playing the same way, but they are basically saying, "Hey, look at your read and then run," right? They're not asking him to do much more than like, if it ain't there, just do you. That's
sure.
what they're
Let
saying.
me let,
But
let
I
me let me
here's
let me get
sorry,
to
go
the
on.
thesis statement here so we can wrap it up a little
I
bit.
feel I feel like the thesis is understood. Sorry, that's why I keep jumping forward.
Well, the
Go on.
thesis what I texted you that you horribly misunderstood at first was I am noticing Derek Carr tendencies from Caleb,
Mhm,
and I don't love that.
mhm.
Derek Carr plays quarterback in an extremely aesthetically displeasing way. It's not ineffective. It's not it's not really an insult.
He lacks
Derek Carr
aggression.
is capable of throwing over the middle and hitting the deep ball and stuff like that,
He throws a beautiful ball when he wants to throw it.
but he prefers to check down. He does not move, and he seems to have also been coached by someone at some point that told him no sacks, no turnovers, no fumbles. If a drive ends in a kick, it's good. That old adage. I don't like that. I don't want that to be coached into Caleb
Mhm.
at all. We drafted him with the first overall pick because of his playmaking ability. And now I will say this one last thing before I let you go on. So I don't know about the Rome missed deep shot. I do know that Caleb missed 2 plays downfield, and his deep throwing accuracy has been crappy. And I'll say this to Tampa Bay Trey. What I saw him say was one concern that he has is the footwork, which isn't something that I really pay attention to with a
Mhm.
quarterback. Um, he thinks there's a footwork problem going on that's leading to all these missed deep shots. Um, and through 4 games, it has been a pretty lingering issue. More of these should be completed. So, like, if he's not going to complete these, then yeah, I guess just dump it down. He's been doing great in quick game type stuff. That's another thing I got to say is like Mark Sanchez, like all these people are like, Caleb's really growing. You can see him playing well from the pocket. Caleb was playing well from the pocket from the first snap. That's not the issue. The issue is that he's not doing any of the Caleb stuff, and that's what's starting to frustrate me
Okay,
basically.
so here's my response to a couple different things. One, on the note of his footwork, I think his footwork is like this because he is getting used to a new offense, which your footwork in a lot of these offenses is going to be play dependent, right? So the more you rep those plays, the more you're going to get that footwork down because a lot of it is you're getting your footwork with the rhythm of the routes, right? It's a hitch one, hitch to my third read. But I need to make sure that my footwork is timed up so that when I hitch for that first read, the first read is about to hit its cut and I can read it real fast and go to it and then go to my second one. So I think JTO has noticed as well, and it might have been JTO, it might have been no, it's Kurt Warner, and notice is when he needs to hitch to his second read, sometimes he's a little late. This and Kurt makes it sound like it's the end of the world sometimes, but what he's really saying, because Kurt's trying to say, hey, he needs to hit this bar to be an NFL quarterback. He's not at that bar yet. Okay, Kurt, but we also understand that he's a rookie, right? So, like, let's talk about the growth that's coming in there. And he'll bring it up sometimes, but he's really just saying he hasn't hit that bar yet. He hasn't hit that bar yet. He hasn't hit that bar yet. I'm like, Kurt, come on. He's getting closer to it. And if you watch the breakdowns, you can tell he's getting, Kurt will be like, oh, hey, we're seeing a flash. We're seeing a flash. He's getting to that read. Maybe there's something there. I can't fully tell, which is true. You can't fully tell until you start to see it even more and more often because you don't know if it's just dumb luck or something like that. A lot of it is him having to get used to these plays. That's why his footwork looks off, and he needs to get comfortable with it. I think a lot of these deep shots, the alerts that he's missed, for instance, we've talked about this before, has to do with the fact that he's not comfortable in the offense yet. His footwork goes a little too quick. He rushes himself, especially that first week. He was rushing himself through a lot. And so he's not getting himself into a stable throwing platform, which he can absolutely use his arm to make up for. But I don't think he can do it when he doesn't realize that he's not on platform. When he thinks he's got his platform set and actually uses his legs, it throws him off a little bit.
Can I say all of this explanation is a little concerning to me? This should not. This is not a comfortable discussion to be having about the first
This
overall
is,
generational talent pick. It's
but
not.
they
He could use
all
his arm.
know.
Well, then why doesn't he?
Well,
Why
okay,
is
hold on.
every
We'll
single
come
one of
to the
these so
playmaking.
inaccurate?
Can we come to the playmaking aspect of it after we get through the instructor stuff? Because there's an instructor in it, which is why I say that yes, he can use his arm, but if he's thinking he's got his feet under him and he doesn't, that's when he doesn't engage the arm in the way that he would if he's throwing an off-platform pass. Because he is engaging his legs, but his legs, when he engages them, are so thrown off, it throws him off completely. Like you can see it. There are times where his legs aren't even underneath him and he's trying to engage them. And it's like, okay, you're better off doing a jump throw there. Like you're better off doing a fade back pass, which I know you can do that Jordan Love does, but you're not, which I'll come to in a second. What I'm trying to talk about though is when he tries to play in structure, he is currently off. He's not in rhythm quite yet. You can, it's pretty easy to tell. And that's what I think. That's what I think Trevor Sikkema is saying when he's talking about the footwork. The footwork's off because he's not in rhythm with his footwork. And I don't think that's something that a lot of guys get down, honestly, because it's a brand new offense. Remember, he played from shotgun and an air raid. It is a brand new offense. I would say around like week 8, week 9, week 10. If this is still an issue, then yeah, I'm going to start freaking out. But usually we see guys that come into an offense like this in the league, they start to take their stride mid-season. And then at that point, and because I'm a believer that a quarterback shows you that he's the guy his first year, but he doesn't show it right away, right? They start to show it later on.
I
Now,
think I want to be clear though. Because these are
okay,
all just like little moments of panic. They're not big moments of panic because I think he's already shown that he's at least a guy. Like this isn't like a Bryce thing where
no, yeah, I
it's
agree
like
with you.
he's definitely going to be a top 15 starter, but like
Yeah.
we're shooting for top 5, and I'm looking for any nugget
Mhm.
that can tell me top 5, and it's
Right.
It's concerning to me because like there's other guys
Outside
who've
of
shown Nuggets that they could be top 5, and I'm just
Kyler
waiting
Murray
for
is
it.
one that did it. And I think Kyler Murray started to do it later, but he also played in Cliff's air raid, which is not an offense you're going to see sustained success in, but you can see success early on in your like Jaden Daniels is going through it right now. It's a college gimmicky offense. When I forgot who it was that said it last week when they were going into the game, he's like, I'm not going to apologize for saying that. It's true, right?
Cam Taylor
Let
Britt.
is Cam Taylor Britt. Let that
Yeah.
like if it wasn't the Bengals who have an absolute they face some really shitty defenses. This actually goes back to when Mac Jones was doing really well his rookie year. I told you he's faced only bottom 10 defenses, and then all of a sudden he fell off at the end of that
Hey
year.
man, I don't
Let's give
want
it a little
to.
bit.
I don't want to tell
I
you.
think Jane Daniels looks really.
You can make whatever claims you want. I don't think now is a great time to be
Oh no, I'm
making
not.
any
I
grand
think
statements about Jaden Daniels.
I'm
I
making
think
a
we. I
statement. I'm
think
making a
well
statement
we
about. Hold
will.
on, pause. Let me explain.
We.
I'm making a
I
statement about Cliff Kingsbury, not Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels has shown me a lot more. We can get into that whenever we want, more than I thought he could coming out. There are other aspects of his game that I did not give him respect for that Cliff Kingsbury is actually using, but I'm talking about Kingsbury himself. That's it.
okay.
Being clear here. Any Washington any commies fans, I'm talking about your offensive coordinator. You want to come at me for that? Feel free to. I don't like him. Your quarterback, not talking about him. Coming back to it, what I'm trying to say is guys who typically do show their stuff early are typically because they're not running a pro style offense like this and they're asking him to do that. Now you want to go to the playmaking, right? Let's talk about the playmaking. I'm not sure why. That could be coaching. I don't think it is. Now here's the thing. I was listening to Eberflus's presser and he said when Caleb had a shot, he took the shot. And when he didn't, he got to his other readers check down. He's like, that's what I want. So I don't think Flus is telling him, don't take shots really quickly.
I
I
absolutely don't think that either. I
yes.
absolutely do not think that either.
Yep. I
I think
do
he's
think
missed
he
a
missed
couple.
some. Yes, I do think he's missed a couple, but I want to throw that out there really quickly. Also on the in structure stuff. Now coming to the out of structure, I think Caleb has because in the NFL it's hard to make more than one or two guys miss. And Caleb has had issues escaping on a couple plays where he's had to make multiple guys miss. I think he's being more reserved. This is my opinion. I have no freaking clue. I could be completely wrong. This is a guess. This is a full-on guess. I think he's being more reserved and trying to play in structure because he's taken some bad sacks. I think his out of structure game is going to come when he gets more comfortable in structure. When he gets more comfortable with the lanes of escape, when he gets more comfortable seeing the game, when he gets more comfortable with the speed. I think he tried to lean on it, has taken a lot of negatives because of it, right? And the positives that come typically get nullified by penalties, so he doesn't actually get any of that reward because we've seen some positive plays in it. It's just we have a holding that brings it back. So he never gets that reward, that dopamine dump that says, you know what, I could do this again, right? So I think
Yeah.
he'll find a balance, but I don't think it's coaching. I highly doubt it's coaching. You do not draft Caleb Williams. Ryan Poles does not draft Caleb Williams and then allow the coaching to say, hey, don't be you. Like, don't be the guy that we just drafted. I do not. I would be shocked. And if they do, all of them need to be fired.
I
Now,
think
the reason why I want to push back is you're not the only one who said this. There are a lot of people, a lot of fans that are scared that the coaching is doing this. You're not the only one, I promise you. When you said that earlier, that they were congratulating, their fans are like, no, we're scared they're going to change his game.
Okay, to be
I don't
clear,
think so.
to be very clear, I don't care. I've said this many times. I don't care about the fans. I don't know the fans' opinions. I don't care.
But I'm saying you're not alone on this. And I might be wrong. And full on, I probably am. We'll find out. There's more people who agree with you, to be clear here. I just think that a lot of it has to do with comfort. Everything we're seeing has to do with comfort. He's being asked to do significantly more than a lot of rookie quarterbacks are asked to do. And the nice thing is, unlike with Fields, who I bring up this is why I brought up Fields, the paralysis by analysis, right? Giving too much. I'm not seeing that with him. That's phenomenal. That's literally all I can ask for is like you're stepping up to the task and you're not allowing it to shut you down because I've been there before in my own job where I'm
It's
given
certainly
too
not.
much information and it's really hard to work when you're trying to
It's
take in all the shit.
it's certainly not manifesting in the same way as Fields. I'll say that much.
I don't think it was his best game. It might have been his best game strictly because some of them have been bad, right? But
I mean, the Colts game was his best game because he completed some deep throws and there was a variety of different
yeah,
types of passes. He attacked the whole field. I understand
yeah,
game script had something to do with it,
I
and
think a lot of
but
it has to do with attempts too as well. I mean, we're talking about like 20 something attempts versus like 52, right? Like
could
mix in the good and the bad.
got into a rhythm if
He
that's
had
what you're
two
referring to.
very, yeah, he had two big time throws, I think, in this game. I don't know how PFF graded. I would give him two. The seam ball to Komet and then the throw to DJ Moore were absolutely beautiful throws. We're talking about dots on both of them. If they're not placed exactly where they're placed, they're not completed.
I think I'd probably give them both big time
Yeah.
throws. Sure.
So, like, we still saw some good in a very small sample versus the other Colts game. Granted, we're not seeing super explosives like we saw in the Colts game, but we are versus the sample. We're talking about like half the attempts, less than half the attempts.
Yeah, you know that
Yeah, you're not freaking out.
scouting. I'm not
Yeah,
scouting. No, I was first of all, I'm not scouting the number of yards. Like, but I'm saying, and again, maybe it's sample size. Maybe I just got to see more of Caleb, and I got to see more of the menu of things that he had, tools in his tool belt. Um, but yeah, I would just say that besides one really bad play, like he showed every throw that he's capable of making against the Colts, and then it kind of went back to I was like I just don't want to be like we could just have Bo Nix run this offense. Like
I disagree there. I don't think bonus has.
I'd kind of trust him to do I'd kind of trust Bo Nix to do most of what Caleb did, besides the two big throws.
Yeah,
But I'd kind of trust him to do most of what Caleb did last Sunday. And I know that Caleb's capable of more. And as frustrating as it is to see him miss all these deep throws, and for the reasons that you've said, and other reasons as well, I'm sure, I need them to keep happening because they're not going to be completed if they don't happen. And it's just frustrating me. And the coaching, I want to be specific, is I cannot put into words watching in real time how bizarre it was to see Caleb stand in the pocket, have pressure around him that I knew he could feel, and not move. That has got to be, if not a coaching point, a thing that was mentioned to him that he really, really took to heart.
yeah.
I don't
Potentially,
think I don't think the correct type of shot plays were dialed up against the Rams. And this is repeating a point that, and I hate when we repeat other guys' points, but this is something that I've noticed as well. That missed post was on play action back to the defense, and then missed Rome once he turned back around. I believe that's a Tim Jenkins point. I think you said to me.
I think that was JTO who brought it up.
Okay. Um, I've noticed the same thing. I don't want as much play action with Caleb unless it's an
Oh,
immediate
you're talking
roll out
about
to
the
the right
comfort
to get
level.
some easy yards.
Yeah. So Tim
I
Jenkins
don't
brought up the
want
comfort
Caleb's
level.
back to be to the defense. I don't mind spreading it out 5 wide. I really trust that Caleb is going to find a guy. I don't want this as much play action. I don't want so many 1st and 10 screen passes just to try to get the drive. We don't need all this shit. That's the coaching to me. It's the play
We've talked
calling,
about that.
and it's again that weird thing that I feel like is a coaching point where he just stood in the pocket. Those are the two things that bug me.
We have the wrong coach if we want to just do drop back, just so you know, for offensive coordinators. Now, however, you and I have both talked about this. We're for shotgun drop back with Caleb. We've brought it up a few times. I brought up a quick game, for instance, especially like scat protection, 5 out. Yes, agree. Play action does not look like something he's comfortable with. That was Tim Jenkins. I want to add in there. I know you don't like talking about other guys' points. I'm fine with it as long as we credit them for the point, right? So
Well,
this
I
is
was
not
fine with
our
it
point.
because I've already that's already a point I've had.
Yeah,
I don't like all this play action shit. I do think he misses stuff on play
right.
action. I don't
But
think he misses stuff when he sees the field in the first place.
right. I think the thing that he added though, and this is where I don't know if you had this already, but I had texted you this with Tim Jenkins' point is he doesn't look like he's comfortable turning his back to the defense, which is what and that's something that there are a lot of quarterbacks that are like this. Aaron Rodgers is not like turning his back to the defense. Peyton Manning did not like turning his back to the defense. There are quarterbacks that want to be able to watch the defense rotate as they're going through and not turn around and not realize
I'd
what
argue it's a
exactly
good
happened.
thing. I'd argue it's a good
Yes.
thing.
I think it's a very good thing because that means that they want to read the defense itself and not do what I think a lot of Shanahan quarterbacks do, which is I'm being told to trust this read and just rip it and trust that he gave me what I needed to do to succeed. And if you listen to the Channy Coaching Trees talk, say on like the Playmakers podcast, you know that is 1000% what they will ask. Brock Purdy, however, I want to give some credit. When it's not there, he will make. He's been creating, I think, a little bit more this year. All that said, I'm not worried again because I think it is I think this past week is two things. I think it is an issue of him needing to be comfortable and him having a couple of fails trying to do it, but also on top of it, I'm sure was a coaching point this week that was, hey, as long as you're responsible with the ball and don't need you really don't need to do all too much for us to win this game. And Caleb is going to be the guy that says, all I want to do is win the game. So if I'm coached to do that and I'm seeing that it's working like this, what's the point of going out and making a flashy play?
Yeah.
So I part of me also wonders how much of it is that where it's like, we know what the game plan is, and as long as we stick to this, you'll be good. But this isn't going to be a game plan for every single week.
I got
And
you.
this was the first game where he didn't try to escape, I think, at all.
I'll also say the Rams were very, very focused on bending and not breaking, which is not typical for them. I don't think, because I mean their secondary sucks, and I mean there's screenshots of deep drops from the linebackers and the corners playing the flats, and like yeah, just dump it down. I'm not like against the dump down. Maybe it's just this specific game. And you, like you thought I was going to say, and it is correct. I'm not worried, but this was not his best game. Is my point. It was not a bad game, but it was a milk toast ass game that I think a lot of quarterbacks could replicate who are far less talented than Caleb Williams. That's where I'm
I don't think you get that
I think it
touchdown
was
pass.
a Derek Carr ass game.
I don't think you get that touchdown pass or that pass to Komet, that explosive that ended up setting up, I believe, the Swift touchdown run.
Can I say this? Going back to my comparison, Derek
Yeah.
Carr could have made both those throws.
I think Derek Carr could have, but I think Derek Carr is a much better quarterback than a lot of people give him credit for, and he is not aggressive enough for how good he is. I'm not ready to say that Caleb Williams, who has been overtly aggressive throughout a lot of his career when he needs to be, right, is going to be like Derek Carr.
Right.
That's give me till week 8. Give me till
I'm
week 8,
not
and then we'll get
saying
there.
that. But what I am saying is I want to see Caleb do things differently than Derek Carr. It's not an insult to call him Derek Carr. It's not. Derek Carr is a fine quarterback.
Doing
I'm
really well
saying
this year.
I want to see him do things much differently than Derek Carr does things, because we did not draft Derek Carr.
Yes,
Stylistically, talent-wise, none of it. We didn't do any of that.
I hear you.
I want to see. I'm not going to
I
call
don't
his
think
best
any of the
game
other 3 games.
a
Yeah.
Derek Carr ass game. That's the point. It was not his best game.
That's fair. That's fair. All the other 3 games, I don't think we're even close to what Derek Carr does. So one game is not going to get me worried. That's basically all I'm saying. Now we can go to the. Let me actually quickly. The reason why I misunderstood you is I read David Carr when he sent that, and I'm like, oh, we're going to talk about breaking him in the pocket because he wasn't moving. Because you were complaining about the fact that he wasn't moving too. So I put 2 and 2 together. My ADHD ass just skipped over Derek and just saw D Carr and assumed David Carr, and I'm like, I don't think we're even close to breaking.
Yeah. So my response to that was, David Carr is a cautionary tale. He's almost like folklore at this point, because you and I barely had pubes when we last saw him play. We don't really know David Carr. But what I do remember is David Carr did move, certainly more than Derek. No, it wasn't anything like Derek. I'm not gonna do the David Carr thing. I mean, if you let somebody get hit enough and break him, then yes, that's a David Carr thing. No, but he's not.
That's not
what that was.
We saw it with Darnold. I would say we saw it a little bit with Fields. We saw it with Baker. So when I think I had messaged you, like, I don't see that at all. And I might have said, like, that doesn't remind me of David Carr's game. I was specifically really talking about the same thing happening to other quarterbacks where I know it happened to. I mean, Darnold literally said he was seeing ghosts. So that's it. It doesn't look like that. I don't think we're close to breaking him quite yet. I think Caleb is going to be just fine when it comes to not losing his whatever time he currently has. I think it'll gain is what I'm trying to say there. His internal clock. Let's move to the next game.
Let's get to Carolina. Storylines abound.
Do we need to talk about it? Everyone else talks about it. Do we really want to talk about the trade? Andy Dalton. I'll talk about Dalton all day, but like, do we need to talk about the trade?
Storylines abound, and If you'll let me get to my, you got to trust me.
Yeah, we gotta have an outline, bro.
You
I don't
got
know
to
what you're
know.
gonna
You
say.
got to know that if you're falling, I'm going to catch you.
All right. Oh no.
Storylines abound.
This is why we need an outline, so I know what the hell you're gonna say. I don't know because we
Andy
both
Dalton
want to
is
run.
back. Is what I was
Hell
going to
yeah,
say.
QB1. Let's go.
Andy Dalton has been awesome. I still want to talk a little bit about the Panthers. So Bryce Young is one of the worst quarterbacks that's ever played a snap of NFL football.
So many tweets I need to delete from when he was coming out of high school. Oh, so many tweets I need to delete from when he was coming out of high school. Go on.
And I think the most damning thing is that the Panthers offensive line is arguably the best in the NFL so far this year. Looking at their PFF stuff right now, and it's only part of the story.
You don't even need to. I can tell you right away that they're.
I'm seeing
probably
nothing but
the best.
green. Seeing nothing but green. See nothing but green at the running back. See nothing but green at the quarterback right now.
Invested a ton on that interior of the offensive line, a ton, this past offseason. I don't think their tackles. They're not still starting. Was it them that got Icky?
It's still both tackles, and both tackles are predictably good. It's a top.
Who are their tackles again? Remind me.
Icky Ekwonu and Taylor Moton.
Is Icky doing that well? I didn't think Icky Ekwonu was doing that well. I'm pretty sure that whole tackle class was having issues.
Icky's doing good.
Okay, never mind. There we go. So yeah, it's Icky. And then they paid a ton for that interior, and then their tackles plays great. Probably should be able to see over the interior offensive line if they're not getting any push, and you're not going to get much push on their interior. I think Dalton's had a ton of time to throw, but on top of that, Dalton's also got a pretty fast time to throw since starting. It's like 2.44 or something like that, if I remember correctly, from a random stat that I just saw.
I don't know. Andy Dalton. We know how Andy Dalton plays. He's not holding the ball.
Yeah. So there's that. They're going to be able to run the ball at us pretty well, especially considering how well that interior is playing. Right. And then what else did you want? So that offensive line, I agree. It's going to be the strength of their team.
Well, so I just say to say, I say that to say that our perception of the Panthers obviously has to be much, much different than what we thought it was coming into the season. So Andy Dalton cannot possibly keep this up. Even if he has a last year Joe Flacco run in him, that would still make him significantly worse than he's been through 2 games. With that said, this is a fully functional offense. Deontay Johnson is eating. Xavier Legette is bizarrely looking kind of good. Like Jonathan Mingo is still dog shit. But yeah, the point is, I'm trying to square in my mind what the Panthers have done the last 2 weeks, which is score a lot and look really good on offense against really bad defenses. Versus basically, is it sustainable what they've done the last 2 weeks? Because now they're playing a real defense. The Bears are a real defense. You said they're going to be able to run the ball. I don't necessarily take that as a given. I think it's far more possible that they can run the ball than I originally thought. Sorry, something happened in the background. You're being very quiet.
I am currently looking up their week 3 and week 4 statistics. So really quickly on Dalton is time to throw 2.26. P2S is 15.4%, but only 13 dropbacks have had a pressure on him, which tells you about how their line's doing. On top of that, he's had 5 big time throws, so 6.1% big time throw rate, 3 turnover worthy plays, 3.4%, about half, 2-to-1 BTT to TWP, which is what I would expect. I like a little bit less than that. And then, so yeah, when you're coming to advanced stats there, and then on top of it, when it comes to EPA per play in week 4, and we're actually in week 3, let's start there. In week 3, their EPA per play was 0.18 in week 3, and then in week 4, their EPA per play was it was a negative. It was minus 0.03. So they did regress a little bit between the 2 weeks. playing, I believe, a better defense their second week than they did their first. And then just to give everyone an idea of what that was like in week 1 and 2. Week 1, they're going to be all the way down here. Minus 0.52 in week 1. So they're losing half a point every play. They were basically giving you half a point every play. And then in week 2 with Bryce, it was minus 0.55. So yeah, we're talking about, you're right, and I agree with you there, and it's a good direction to go. We cannot think of the Panthers as the Panthers we had coming into the season, because the difference in this offense is, hey, we're giving you half a point every play versus we're either about even or we're scoring about
Adam,
0.18.
I
Shoot,
need to. I'm sorry.
I'll
You're
run with
making
it.
some
Keep
great
going.
points. Hang on 1 second.
Yep.
Turn the stove on and dump the spice in. It is so.
I'm muting Kev's mic at the moment. Hopefully you guys cannot hear this as he's talking to his wife about dumping the spice in for their chicken that they're making. We're not editing this. I'm just letting you know. Do you want me
You
to?
have to. I don't care.
I didn't want to. We don't edit anything, just so everybody knows, because it makes us take way longer on getting these episodes out. So it's just easier for us to get practice talking, and we'll edit in the future once we don't have to edit as much.
I'm never editing nothing.
Well, I guess that's up to me.
If I wanted it off the pod, I would have texted her.
Yeah, that's fair. What was I going to say,
though? Which I did, and then there was follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Man, just dump the spice in the water and boil it. It's easy.
Okay, so I made the points on the EPA per play going up significantly from weeks 2 and 3, or 3 and 4.
Also, good points. Also, eyeball test, just the points that they scored. Like,
yep.
I think 33 week 3 and 28 week 4, I believe. Bengals defense might stink. I think
they're one of the worst defenses in the league. They just don't have the personnel. I feel bad for Big Lou. They've only lost personnel, and then as they've tried to backfill, they've been trying to. They haven't done a good job filling. They draft much better on offense than they do on defense, it seems like.
They don't have a nose tackle. I like individually the talents that they have at corner. I don't know. We're not talking about the Bengals, but I think and a revenge game much closer to Andy Dalton's heart, I think, unfortunately, than the revenge game he's about to embark on. Granted, who knows? Maybe he mostly identifies as a Chicago Bear.
No, that's the offensive side of the ball. With our defense, I'm not as worried about Dalton as I should be.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw my prediction here. I don't think they're gonna run that well. I don't.
I think their offensive line could expose. I think their offensive line could expose some things in the run game. I don't worry that much about Chuba Hubbard as a running back, and I know that running backs don't matter, but I think you need a better running back than Chuba Hubbard to get this offensive.
If you're worried about like explosives and stuff like that, then we're getting into running back skill.
Yep,
a little bit,
and that's where I think maybe they could be a little efficient, but I think it's going to be more like the Rams at that point, being efficient, because I don't think they're going to take advantage of any kind of explosives from that aspect. When it comes to Andy Dalton, sorry, go on.
I was say, but we are quite bend don't breaky, and I think it will be annoying how quickly Dalton gets the ball out, and I think he will find open receivers, and I think I do not want Tyreek on Deontay Johnson, because that's exactly the type of guy that Tyreek cannot cover. I hope Jalen follows him around.
I don't think we'll be doing a lot of man on that aspect of things. I think considering their offensive line, the idea would be to be a little bit more blitz heavy on Flus's side, which he's done a little bit more. Be a little bit more blitz heavy with some different zone shells behind it. That doesn't have to be like a fire zone blitz, right? It could be something like something Flores has been doing recently a lot. I don't know if Flus, I haven't watched it, is cover 4 or Tampa shells with his blitzes, and he'll send 6 with that. So we're talking about just the shell itself. So like the back half, how he's covering the deep side of the field. And essentially with like a quarter setup, you're basically asking your guys to play off their man, but play them deep and run up and tackle if they catch anything short. So I could see him being a little bit more exotic with different types of zone schemes to force Andy Dalton to hold on to it a tick longer to allow the blitz to get home. I
Yeah, I
don't
think
see us winning with 4 though. I'll be honest with you. I don't think we're. I mean, I think Gervon Dexter's done a great job. I think this is going to be the best interior offensive line we faced. Those Billings.
do I even necessarily agree with that?
You can take your
Who
time,
do we
think
play
about it.
week 1?
We have played the Titans, who have a terrible one side of the line and a decent
Oh, the
other side of the
Colts.
line.
The Colts have a much better interior offensive line.
Yeah, they do have a much better interior offensive line. I don't think we really got home all that much against the Colts. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's more so Richardson just missed some really should have been gimme balls.
Yeah,
That turned into interceptions.
I think I'm gonna dig myself into a hole here, maybe, or maybe say something kiss of death. I'm not super worried about getting home. Like I said this about Stafford, and I said this about Stroud. You got to get home. I don't necessarily care about getting home against Dalton. I'm good I'm good playing bend don't break because I think eventually things are
I
gonna work
agree
out
with you.
fine.
I was going to say that. I agree with you. I do think that once you get into the red zone, Dalton, it's going to be a lot harder for Dalton to find because they don't have the weapons for the red zone that I think can score against the Bears defense specifically, right?
No,
So that's where it becomes once you get into the low red, I'm actually because of how much shorter the field is, I'm actually more comfortable with
it'll
hey, if we
require
have to play bend more, don't break, it's fine. I don't think we are at bend don't break specifically to typically, but I think this is a game where like last week's game, we have to play a little bend don't break. Let's play some bend don't break. That's fine.
I'm good doing it because I don't think Dalton could do what Stafford did at all.
Yep.
I think we'll
Yep.
see a lot of the same things, play action and some annoying times where guys are running wide open over the middle of the field, and Dalton will throw that.
Yep. I
Um,
think Canales has a good drop back game too, though, when it comes to like just what's it called? NFL just pro pass, right?
yeah. The thing is,
But
he's never been able to manufacture a good run game. And through the last 2 weeks, a good run game has happened. I think that maybe has more to do with the opponents than the actual skill level.
Bengals especially.
Yeah. So, again, I think I'm not going to disrespect the Panthers so much because again, we just pointed to all the good stuff they've done. But yeah, I'm not super scared of them marching up and down
Yeah.
like they have the last 2 weeks.
I would have them at the same level of panic that I would have the depleted Rams offense, where I said it's going to be harder than we think it is, which I believe we saw it being much harder than we thought it. Like some people might have thought it was. I'm not saying you specifically, but specifically when it comes to they were able to march down the field and get some explosives, right? They're still able to manufacture offense. I still think that that's going to be a thing, but I'm not saying that that's going to be like our defense isn't going to be like exposed or anything like that. I just don't think it's going to be a game where our defense just absolutely tees off, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I put it at I think I put it at a notably lower level of panic than against the Rams because Andy Dalton is not Matthew Stafford or anything close to it. I think we can play the same way and get better results, basically defensively. Like, last week if 20 was my number, this week it's no more than 17. I think we just got to score more than 17 points. Is what I'm getting at.
Now, on that note, I think we'll score much more than 17 points because the one thing that hasn't improved in the last 2 weeks is their defense. Their defense is probably with the commies and with the Bengals as one of the like few worst defenses in the league. Like considering the fact that defenses have taken such a massive step against offenses this season, these remind me of the 2016, 2017, 2018, 2020 defenses we saw when games were hitting insane highs in points.
Yeah.
Do they even have anyone on that side of the ball that you would say
No. I mean, Derek Brown is hurt out for the season. Their best defensive player is probably
Jace Horn?
Jace or JC Horn. Yeah, JC
Yeah, Jace
Horn.
Horn. Who coming out was a first round graded corner, went in the first round. Not someone I really cared all that much for. I don't remember what your take was there with him. And he is not. And he had the back injury too, if I remember. Doesn't he have like a few spine?
No, you're thinking. I think you're thinking of Caleb Farley with the
Oh, I
spine
am.
stuff.
I might be wrong.
He has been hurt a lot though. When he's played, he's been good. Um, if not spectacular, but he's been good. Um, he's a nice press guy. For especially for his size, he's a feisty little guy. There's nothing else here. Both their starting linebackers are out. Um, their Derek Brown, like I mentioned, their best defensive player is I think out for the season. There's nothing at all here.
This is
Nothing
a
at
game
all.
where if we don't see the offense just look at least efficient throughout the whole game, let's just say they decide to take it easy and just, go for the easy squeeze, right? Like they did against the Rams, because we know we can win the game if we just take what's there, because they're not going to be threatening in any way and any other way, right? If we're not efficient, right? If I see if there are a bunch of like 3-and-outs, I'm going to be flipping you're going to get a text from me that's emotionally driven. This should be a game in which we're at least marching down the field and not punting more than say a couple times in this game.
Yeah, I gotta. Huh. Yeah, I'm with you. I think. So what bugs me is you sent me a screenshot. I think after week 2 that showed the frequency with the shells that teams were playing.
Mm.
Why can't I just find that? Do you know how to just find that? I'd love to be able to find that.
I can look for
Like
it.
update it, like
Yeah,
update it every week. How is somebody not updated? Like I'll
there
find a
are.
nugget
So
on Twitter and be like, oh, this is a great nugget.
here's the
Give
issue.
me a site.
I agree with you. It annoys me too, but this is the thing. There's a lot of media, like specific. So there's a specific stat sites that are made for companies, right? Like True Media, for instance, I believe is one of them, where media companies can subscribe to it if you're like work for the Athletic or Yahoo. You can get their stats, which are not available for us unless we have like a
Oh
business
boy,
license.
I wish we had a recognizable brand that everybody loves. Oh wait, we do. It's called Sliding into Virginia's DMs. Give us the
Yeah,
stats.
yeah. We're not paying for those licenses.
No, God,
The
no. You pay us, so you pay us to tell about all your little stats.
that's
So
there's a few.
I'd love to get into a lot more about the Panthers defense, but here's what I know based on publicly available information. The Panthers, you know what? I believe they play amongst the most cover 3 in the NFL.
Who's their
Um,
defense? Oh, it's Ejiro. Wow, Ejiro. Why am I forgetting?
Ajiro Avero?
Yeah, Ejiro Evero. That's how you say it. I was trying to remember the enunciation there. Ejiro Evero was the DC for shoot. He
The
lost his
Broncos.
the Broncos, right?
He's
And
of
then
the Staley Fangio tree, and he's
three,
the one who is actually good.
right? And then he got let go from the Broncos. He was really good. He got let go from the Broncos. Terrible decision to just let him walk on.
It was just because Fangio left
Right,
and
Payne should have kept him. I
he
think is
kind of
what
became a
the
free agent
yeah.
kind of deal. Yeah.
Although the Broncos defense this year their front has been fantastic. Trying to think this through. So yeah, I mean, I would imagine some mixed looks. Probably not a lot of cover 3, as you're saying, but I can take a look. Give me a second if you want me to find it. I know who to go to for them, but continue.
Through 2 weeks, they were up there in terms of cover 3, like way up there, like 55% of the time playing cover 3. Um, Blitz percentage, they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th in the league. That is a function of how extremely bad their defensive line is. Because even with that high blitz percentage, their hurry percentage is 30th in the league. They blitz a lot and they still don't catch up the quarterback.
That sounds a lot like a defense we saw yesterday, the Falcons, who have absolutely no. Remember when we all wanted, like a bunch of people wanted Judon, and I was screaming, "No, we shouldn't get Matthew Judon. He's kind of fraud." And then I remember Brad Biggs, or not Brad Biggs. Wow, Greg Braggs being like, "See, I told you guys," because we were in on the trade, and he just started absolutely talking about how the nerds told him he was wrong because we were in on the trade. No, what the nerds were saying was because,
You
as
didn't
we
want
said
to.
with Claypool, as we said with Claypool, that was an overpay for Claypool. Just because he makes the trade doesn't mean it's a smart move. Had we have made that move, I said in a tweet, I would have really gone off on Poles for making that trade. I think we're seeing the Falcons still can't produce a pass rush. Judon's been fine, but I mean, we've gotten the same amount of production, I think, from Daryl Taylor for like a 6th-round pick. So,
yeah.
Sorry, on a tangent, complete tangent, because I was thinking about pressures and blitzes, because that's what happened last night on Thursday Night Football was the Falcons in the first half were blitzing on like 65% of their 65% of their plays, they said on the broadcast, and they had 0 pressures. First time all season that a team had 0 pressures in the first half of football in an entire half. That sounds a lot like that. That's all I'm saying.
I think Evero was smart enough to at least try some games, test our offensive line. Personnel wise, they're just not at all threatening. I mean, I feel like I've said this like 3 weeks in a row. They're less threatening than the other ones, and I think I already said the Colts might have the worst defense in the league. No, the Panthers actually do. There's nothing to be afraid of here. The only thing is, like, in terms of the little numbers I just put out there, is that the Panthers will try to blitz, and as a result, you will need to block an extra guy, and that is the one source of possibly being afraid of what the Panthers defense could do is just call a play that the Bears fuck up and can't handle, even though they obviously should. That said, I agree with what you just said. It seems like they have done a better job, and I think it goes back to my point after the Week 2 game. I think it became a huge point of emphasis, and I think they are figuring it out.
Yes. And your other point that, they're not the same DCs, right? Like, I don't think Ejiro Evero's game is going to be finding ways to blitz. And I guess it's the same thing but anyway.
I mean, I think Evero's the smartest defensive mind that the Bears have gone against since D'Amico Ryans, that's for sure.
Yes.
So, I wouldn't put it past him. In fact, I expect him to alter what he does to attack the Bears defense.
I don't think offense. They have the personnel, though. Like, we're not talking about 2 elite edge rushers, right? That can also score, like, benefit from those pressure looks, right? So I think there's a lot of things that are going into it that I'm less worried about it this week, even if we haven't figured it out because it was a point of emphasis. And sorry, I'm still trying to find these coverage rates. Even if it's a point of even if it wasn't a point of emphasis that we fixed, which I do think we did. We saw the depth change with the interior offensive line as they're dropping back, as they're setting for their blocks. Even if it's not, I don't think that they'll be able to take as much advantage because they lack the personnel to, even if the defensive line is similar. But that said, I don't see anything else that I'd be worried about. I agree with you. Sure, they might blitz a bit. That might expose us a little bit when it comes to communication because of what we've seen with some of the communication.
The only other thing is, again, playing too conservatively to our detriment. But again, I think to your point, and it's not one that I had actually really considered, but I kind of agree with it, is Caleb, was just told we'll win if you just do this. Yep. And I think that's probably extra true against the Panthers. Honestly, it's hard to imagine. No, it's actually not hard to imagine. I'm a Bears fan. I can imagine any horrible thing happening. It's hard to put together a good argument as to how this could, how the Bears do not outplay the Panthers, I should say. The final score might not reflect it, but I cannot imagine the Bears do not outplay the Panthers on both sides of the ball.
And I agree. I don't have anything else to add. Now I'm trying to sort. I had to do a search. I'm trying to get the coverages, as we mentioned. Sorry, I'm still looking for it. I don't know if I'll find it because I can't remember the handle that I got. And Cody Alexander hasn't posted a more updated version for the season. So trying to search for it in a second. But I don't know if I'll find it for this podcast. We'll probably have to talk about it offline. Maybe we'll tweet about it when we post this link. On that note, Do you want to do predictions? Because I feel like we've covered both sides of the ball.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make a prediction that I would have made if I were a happier person. I would go Bears 27, Panthers 9.
Okay, so I don't think even with Andy Dalton, I don't think we hold them just to 9. I do think they score a touchdown.
That's not my prediction.
Oh, okay, never mind. So that's a prediction you would have done if you're a happier person. Is your
Last week I made a prediction and it worked out nicely. So I'm going to make this prediction instead. And I hope everybody could read between the lines. My prediction is not 27-9. My prediction is Panthers 16, Bears 13.
Yes. The pessimistic prediction, so that we continue
No! Don't say it out loud.
Continue to hate on this team.
Out loud.
I wasn't going to, so that we continue to hate on this team. You took the bait. You took the bait. Anyway, what's my prediction then? Well, I was super optimistic last week, and it worked out real well. So I'm going to continue to be super optimistic this week, so it works out real well. Hint, hint. 27. So Bears 27, Panthers. I still think they score a touchdown with a couple of field goals. Let's go 27-16. I don't think we hold Andy Dalton. I think we can hold Andy Dalton to under 20. I don't think we hold Andy Dalton to under 10.
So my fake prediction had 3 scoring drives for the Panthers, and it considered that I just think that get into the red zone. I don't think the Panthers would score a touchdown.
See, I have them scoring 1 touchdown, and the rest of that is 3 field goals. So that's not 2 touchdowns and 2 extra points. That is 7, 10, 13, 16.
Unfortunately, there's no reason to talk about the 27-9 thing. That's not a real prediction. Nobody should pay that any mind. The real prediction is Panthers 16, Bears 13.
Well, any other points you want to talk about? Wanted to spend 23 minutes about my wrong prediction about this being under an hour, but I didn't realize how long we talk about Caleb.
It's like an hour 10, hour 15.
We're at an hour and 17. Best recording yet.
Yeah, let's get the hell out of here. Let's be
Awesome.
happy with that.
So this is Adam. That's Kev. This was Virginia's DMs.
Bye.